Hello everyone, I'm Dreadful, and I have my buddy Nemesis here with me. And today, today we're making the first video for Malefic After Dark. The idea behind this is to give everyone higher quality feedback without the rush of a live stream and without having a bunch of people kind of sitting around waiting for their track to get played and just, you know, too many live stream shenanigans be happening these days. And people just aren't getting the best feedback that I think that they should get, and that, you know, we think we can maybe spice up the feedback game a little bit. Because I myself have submitted to all kinds of streams before, and some people are great, some people are like not so great, and I think I want to try, me and Nemesis here, we want to try a better approach at giving feedback. So that's what we're here to do tonight in the late witching hours that it is. So we can get right into this. So the first track we have, so we can get this right now. So as you can also see, I have all my meters and stuff down here, so it's going to tell me like how wide the track is, what the frequency spectrum is going to look like, how loud we're getting. These are just good visual things that are nice to see. Seeing like what your mix is like visually is pretty important. It's not just about using your ear, especially if you're mixing for a while. You might need the visual stuff. But without further ado, we're going to play this track. Alright. So, the biggest thing I noticed with this track, Ignistic, is that the build right away, I feel like just has a lot more width than the actual drop. We can even see it if Imager doesn't crash. My Ableton again. It's pretty wide, and I would try to automate like the width to just kind of become a little more mono as we get to it, especially when the main basses don't have a lot of width to them. The track just kind of sounds mostly mono. It sounds good in mono, but it needs to also fill out that stereo. Like, it has just the tiniest bit of sparkle on the sides here, but I feel like it needs to fill up the whole imager here. That's like the two things with the beginning here is like drop needs to be wider and build needs to be less wide, and then I would like a second drop. I feel like it would definitely benefit the track to have a second drop. You don't entirely have to do a second drop, but
yeah,
most tracks right now, the second drop is kind of the big thing. So I would definitely do a second drop, especially because this section here, it's groovy and it's nice. But it goes on, I think, way too long. Especially since it doesn't really introduce like crazy new instruments or melodies or chords or anything like that to keep it super interesting. So I would maybe do this whole set. You can keep this whole section in if you want. I would say at your biggest turning points, right? So like after every like 8 bars of this whole mellowed out section, keep introducing more instruments or more interesting effects, ear candy, and the like. And then if you wanted to keep all this, or another one I would suggest is like cut this whole section in half and then insert your build again and then hit us with another drop. Doesn't even have to be anything too crazy from the first drop. You can just do another 16 bar drop to end it out there. Not every track needs like a 32 bar drop or 2 32 bar drops. Like 2 16 bar drops can be fine. So I would say a second drop would go in here as well. So yeah, I mean that's all the feedback that I had for this. Other than that, like the track's loud. It'll definitely be even louder once you fill out the width.
Yeah. Speaking of the width, he could open up like an audio effect rack, right? And have his mids and his sides so he can retain the mids as well, right?
Yeah. So if you do something like like a mid-side EQ. So what I do with basses and stuff is I have this like little mid-side EQ thing that I made. This is an older version of it that I used to use. But basically, we have like just the mids right here. So it's a utility. You can right click on it and do mid-side mode, and then all the way to the left is the mono. So with this on, I can just show this. So this should just be the mono signals. It's also louder. I should probably turn that down. There we go. And then this is same setup, but with an EQ obviously showing the sides. And it's just all the way set to side. So this is all the side information that's in the track. So, and then obviously together. But it definitely needs more sides on the main bases, because the whole mix is missing sides. But you can easily put this kind of method on your bases, which is what I do. Like, I always have the mono signal a little bit louder, which is why this was set to a +4. But usually that's what I do. I do like a +4 on my mono signal, and then the side signal I mix in a little more delicately. I'll probably cut off at like the 80 to like 150, depending on how much distortion is in my sides. As for the mids, like I'll do like a basic cut. I usually keep like everything 80 and above in. It's also where I get like a lot of beef from my tracks. Is like a lot of people kind of default to this like 120 hard cut, which can really remove a lot of beef from your track. It's like when you use a distorted sub, most people cut to about 150, right? They do like and I do this too on my subs. This is basically what the EQ on my sub looks like, right? So there's a lot of like distortion in here that we would consider nice, because subs playing, and then we have nice distortion in here. Your basses are going to have those same frequencies, so if you combine this sort of like point right here with all this distortion in your main basses, it can actually make the track just sound fat, like really, really fat.
Yeah.
But just watch out for it. Sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes you might still want to go up to like 100 or even 120 if you're, depending on the frequencies you have in your track. Usually there's a sweet spot for everyone's style, and I've noticed that pretty much every track I've made, like the last, I'd say 10 or so, none of the main basses ever go above like 90. Usually they're always at the 80. So yeah, that's like a good way to use mid-side EQ. And then of course a clipper, do clip it, and then you can even turn it up if the basses aren't loud enough. So yeah, you can mid-side EQ like that. But yeah, I think that covers sort of how to get those basses louder. It's just parallel processing. So the next track is a Ground Shake remix by RAIDXN. We're not going to be able to like play the audio on YouTube for copyright reasons, so we're going to give it a listen, and then we'll cut straight to the feedback for this. Alright? Alright, so this track, this remix that you've made, RAIDXN, is actually pretty good. I would say my biggest thing is in the drops, there is a lot of distortion in the side information, and the main bass layers I feel like could do with a scoop mids and boost highs, because they're kind of lacking highs in that way of like they sound just a little muffled, like I'm hearing them through my ears being cupped by my hands, sort of thing. Not too much, but enough to where it's noticeable. And as I was playing it, I was noticing that on my reference here in the frequency spectrum. It's like all your top drums were like, I could tell exactly where they were sitting in here, because all the basses were below, almost as if most of them were cut down to like 8,000 hertz. So I would just boost highs a bit. Maybe you don't even need to scoop the mids. Definitely watch your distortion in the side zone, and a way you can do that is, again, with this mid-side EQ. I put this on literally every individual bass and fine-tune that in every single one of my tracks. So we can probably just look at the side information in here too, and we'll see it's probably going to be pretty crazy. Might have to mute this section on the video, but Yeah, I think it would just be a little cleaner if you tamed those sides up a bit. Obviously, I wouldn't put it on your master like I'm doing here. I'm just kind of looking at it. But for each individual bass, I would see how much mud is showing up in your sides. Because as I was listening to it, there's a lot of distortion in the sides that I don't think was decent. So I would look at that. Other than that, though, flow is good. I actually like the tonality on the basses in the second drop, like, a lot. It's kind of right down my alley. And I just wish they had a little more highs on them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, track is otherwise decent. Sections are good, flow is good, structure is good. Yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say about it.
I would say for the same thing that we were telling Ignistic, during your build, it was still pretty wide.
Yeah.
Maybe just, you know, make it a little bit more mono. And after you take care of the side information, just check to see how loud your background elements are in the first part of the drop. Because it did sound like it was overpowering like a little bit. It could just be because of the sides, but just check it. Maybe bring them down like a dB or two, but they were pretty loud from what I heard.
Yeah, what he said. Yeah, no, but that's pretty much it. Otherwise, this is a pretty strong remix. Maybe in the third drop, the layers are, like, a little too crazy. We have parts of the song that, like, go all the way up to, like, almost minus 1 lufs, which I'm a fucking luff tiger, right? Like, I'll push my tracks as loud as I can get them. I don't care. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you, your track's too loud, because I ain't got no bitch ears. But you might want to watch your layers, because they're getting really muddy. But if just clean it up, especially those sides, and like you can push it to minus 1 lufs, like where it is. So I don't think volume is the issue here. I think the issue is taming your frequencies rather than turn it. Because even if you turn it down, it's still going to be noticeable on the sides. Because like I said, it's a frequency issue and not a loudness issue. Like obviously when you turn things up, you'll distort them a bit, but like this is tear out. So every sound, even at minus 10 lufs, is still going to have a distortion sound to it. So just watch where your distortion is. But yeah, otherwise, like, pretty good remix. I like it. And then we have
the loudness tiger.
On the Luff Tiger. Yeah, man. Bro, people always tell me, your track's too loud. The Grocery Boys did that one time. That was the only thing they said about my track was, like, it was too loud. But then they didn't say anything about on how to, like... I mean, they were just like, turn it down, but... whatever. Yeah, and it actually was only, like, minus 3 lufs, too, which was crazy. Okay, so next, we have DROXUS, his remix of Crank That and Bandle's Ground Shake. I like how in the title he doesn't include Bandles in here, it's just Crank That when he was writing it out. Fuck Bandles, bro.
Who has beef with Bandles?
Who does... DROXUS is beefing with Vandals. I can't believe this. Alright, we'll play this. We're going to have to cut for copyright reasons as well until the feedback. But, let's get it.
Everybody's out here really making the ground shake.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think this track suffers from the opposite problem as the last one. Is that I think the high end is just too piercing. Not so much in the first drop, but definitely in the last drop. It is just a little bit too high. I'd scoop the highs just like a little bit.
Yeah,
and
there was a pre-drop vocal that I heard in there, and it sounded like pretty harsh.
Yeah.
Either harsh or like too loud, but you know, Discord audio, so.
Yeah. Well, aren't you listening on SoundCloud while I'm playing these? Didn't I say that you should do that too because of Discord audio?
Okay. My bad.
Bro, I said that earlier. I wish I was recording that so we could flash back to it, but...
Oh, shit.
But, Don't worry, I'm here to save the day. Intro, also same issue. Like once we get to this part here, it is just the high end is so blown out. I would scoop it. You don't even have to turn it down. Like I said, I don't, like loudness is whatever. It's more of a taste than something you have to do. Like no track has to start quiet and then get loud as it goes. Some might tell you that, the intro being this loud might take away from the energy of the drop. I don't think so. Especially with this one. I just think we just need to scoop the highs on a lot of the intro, probably the build as well. Yeah, I mean, even just playing this part, it just sounds like the biggest like whoosh of just white noise. The kind of all the other elements in the track are just drowned out by what just sounds like bass boosted white noise, which can be an issue here, which I think it is. I think it takes away from the track. Literally made me have to turn it down as soon as this whole section started. And then build. Again, this one I would try to automate that width down a little bit. Not like a crazy amount. It doesn't need to be like straight down the middle mono for these builds, by the way. Like, they just need to kind of cool down with the width, because that will impact how strong the drop comes in. Because the drop should be the widest part.
And you can also automate like the volume as well, just like a dB.
Yeah, you can also do that
for the build up.
Yep.
I see what you're saying though. I went back and I checked it. It has a lot of high end.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like those your uplifters. I'm guessing, I don't know if you're pushing it through a clipper on your master or what, but yeah,
the dynamics in your track should be at a point to where you can put in these white noise uplifters, downlifters, and these effects without having to like crank the volume on them and just fucking destroy the audio sample.
Yeah,
they should be subtle but still audible enough to where we can hear them without them having to be cranked up so loud. That, or this could be just like with boosting other layers. Maybe just, yeah, I would go through and just look at the high end on these sections, and then the drop. I would say the drop here, the main bass. Excuse me. I'm eating fucking tomatoes, dude. I ain't gonna lie. I'm just straight up eating baby tomatoes. But the baby tomatoes are telling me that you need just a little bit of a stronger mono signal with these comb filtered basses, which I'm pretty sure are the same basses from the original song, just moved around differently for your song. But I would maybe get, again, mid-side EQ and just pump the mono signal a little bit, and then watch the distortion in the sides. Otherwise, like, harshness wise, the full mix of everything with the sub and the drums and stuff, the high end isn't as bad here as it was before this drop. Yeah, maybe just like a slight bump in the mono signal. Not a crazy one though.
Now, I was gonna say for the last part with the sustain and those gun layers, if you add like something kind of transient wise to make it poke, to make your guns poke through the mix a bit more, because they need more like oomph to them. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that kind of just, like, some kind of clicky sound. You can use, like, a fucking, one of those cliche-ass, fucking bro step laser zap sounds, or like a snare. You know what I mean? Just something in there to make your guns pop.
Yeah, you can do that, obviously, with layers or transient shaper on one of the base layers. But yeah. Wait, you said it was like this last part, right? Yeah. I would say try a transient shaper if there isn't one already on there. If there is, more transient-y layers will help a lot to have those come through. The tonality of them comes through, but they're not.
Yeah.
They're not hitting me like a tear-out gun. They're just kind of like boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean?
Almost like washed out in a way.
Moving on.
And we're moving on to Mark of the Beast.
Yeah, he about to be crazy. Dude, look at this. Alright, so this is Detested, Mark of the Beast.
really sick idea, but I do feel like in the beginning, like with the metal drums and everything that's going on, I feel like everything's super crowded. I feel like if you were to pan your cymbals, yeah, over there, pan your cymbals, maybe even like you can also pan your vocals, maybe stereo separate them a little bit. Another thing as well, like with your guitars, I feel like your guitars and your vocals are kind of overpowering one another.
They're fighting for the frequency spectrum so hard that I can hear those vocals. I have no idea what they're saying, especially since the vocal fry on them is so powerful. So yeah. I would say this is a kind of mix, and this is also basically mixing metal here for this section. So mixing metal is an entirely different beast from mixing dubstep and tear out. But this is one where you really need to layer all your elements like layering a cake. And those vocals, they're the icing. So they need to sit on top of everything. Even if the fry, like, okay, like, you'll have some people who are like, I can't understand the vocals, but they need to at least be the most prevalent thing in the mix here. And I think this is a track where it definitely would benefit from mixing some of these earlier sections down before the drop, because I think especially the first drop I think is near phenomenal. I actually really like the theme of the drop. I like the basses. I think the frequency spectrum is filled out very nice. I would say watch distortion on the sides using mid-side EQ here. But other than that, I actually really like the drop and how it came in. I would say the kick on the build is way too blown out. I would filter it and possibly even turn it down, like let it really come in, and you know, check the sidechain on it too if there is one there. Just sidechain it a little better. Maybe just increase it, like the length of the automation a bit, just so like it can come through, so it's not clashing with the other elements. And then the build, I would also again make it, you know, go a little more mono as it approaches. And then the kick for the drop, like it's pretty boomy, and it kind of gets drowned and, you know, mixed up in with the sub, which I don't know. I really don't know how I feel about this kick. Like, I kind of like the idea,
maybe like
but
shorten it.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Keep it.
I was gonna say with this kick, transient shaper, and just like kind of boost that attack on it, and then also bring down like the length of it, because it's kind of like clashing a bit with everything in here. It's almost like we can't, like we kind of hear a kick, but it's kind of hard to tell it's in there. It almost sounds like it's not really side-chained either.
It doesn't. I don't think it is.
But I love the basses. They're basically basses I would probably use on the track that I would probably make. Yeah, the basses, the flow, and I think your structure here for the drop is really good. What's that?
Maybe throw in like after like 8 bars, throw in like a fill or something. Like maybe like a vocal that you have or something, just to kind of keep it going. And for your because you're doing a clap and a kick combination, once you get your kick handled, just double check to make sure, if you're not already doing it, that you're kind of cutting out some of you're fading out some of like the beginning transient of the clap to let your kick kind of like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Use your kick as the transient.
Yeah. But if you can't get that to work, when I do my drums, I never cut out the transient of my claps, just because my kick is so much louder than them, you don't even notice it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's two ways to mix that. Like, either cut the transient out of the of your snare clap layer, or just clap in this case, because I'm pretty sure it's just a clap. Or just when you fix that kick, see how it sounds with it. And if you end up changing kicks, which might end up happening, again, just kind of see how well they sit together.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, yeah, I really like the flow here. I think the sub, maybe watch some of the distortion in the sub. I think the fundamental is fine, and I think the loudness on it's fine. But I would watch that I would say like 80 to like 150 range, and just watch the peaks that are showing up in the distortion and tame them a little bit, because it sounds like they might be getting like almost as high as the fundamental on the spectrum, so they might be a little too loud. But I think like sub for the most part is fine. You know what else I would do too is this clap sounds like a little dry to me. I would probably add a parallel processed layer on the clap that adds some reverb to it and gives it a little more of a space when it hits. And then I would probably give the clap some width as well. So if I don't know if you're in Ableton or not, but in Ableton I can make this rack here where it's like, this is a dry signal, right? Like there's nothing on it. So this would be the dry signal of that clap. And then this is some convolution reverb. But you can use just like basic reverb or Valhalla Room or any third-party plugin, right? And just do a parallel process where now we have one that's like, you know, it's just got reverb on it, and then tame the volume on it to where you like it. And it would just give it like a nice crisp tail. And I would cut out some of the lows that might show up in the reverb for that parallel process. And then I would give it some width. Just a little bit. You can also parallel process a mid-side EQ on it again with these, but use it on your snares, which I've done before. In fact, I do it on almost every single track. Again, is I give my clap some room in the stereo as well as the mono. But I think this clap would definitely benefit from being a little wet, have a little wet layer, so it kind of has that like sense of falling after it hits. That's all. I like the guitar and how it's mixed in with the drop too. I think there's no clashing there with those frequencies at all, which is really nice and difficult to do too. But I think the guitar and the drop worked out really well. One other thing I want to touch on, which my inner Muerte was screaming at me, if I can find where it is you introduce this more motify, melodic like hit. Yeah. So it sounds great here, and then when we get into the drop, it's audible. We can still hear it, but I want it to be symphonic in its nature with the drop. I want it to be more prevalent. I want it to be something that I can actually latch onto along with the basses. I want a choice here as a listener. I want to be able to focus on this motif over the basses if I wanted to, or I could choose to more focus on the basses over the motif. But I think this is a track that would really benefit from bringing these strings up to the same level of our basses. A great example of me actually doing this, I can show my track, Blood Moon, which is where I use strings, which is actually a good comparison here. Is I bring strings into my B drop for my drops in this track, and they are very symphonic. They basically set the same volume as the basses, and people can kind of choose which one they want to listen to when they hear the track. So I want them to be about as loud as I bring it. Right? If we bring the volume of those up, and an easy way to do that, and the way I did it for this track here too, is I just threw a G clip on it, and I just cranked up the volume like crazy, and then just tamed problem frequencies, and we just watched the distortion that was coming through. But I kind of wish these strings here were a little louder, and then that would really up the game of this track. Like, I think it would really help it shine even more. But if you don't want to, obviously you don't have to. They are sitting relatively fine, but I think it would be a lot better to bring them up symphonically with the drop. Yeah, man, I want to say the track could use more, like, longer fill sections, like more like half bar to even a full bar fill section to end phrases, but it doesn't need it. I think the track is actually, for a track that doesn't have a lot of fills, actually works really well. Like, it just goes. It's so stompy. I like the half note sub. I'm kind of a whore for them right now. So I think that's fine.
The half note whore.
Yeah, the half note whore and the subs. I've been doing that a lot lately.
Love Tiger, and then we get the half note whore.
That's me. They call me many things. But yeah, I think the lack of fills might actually be a really good approach here. I'm just not sure if it's intentional or you just got carried away with the drop, because it just the sounds you have are great. I love the basses a lot. I think that is all I have. Now, this is a really good track.
The only other thing that I can think of is whenever you make like a big transition in, like, I guess like a tonality, like once you start to reach those motifs, maybe add like something in the background pulling. Like, it could be, you could wash out one of those motifs with reverb, resample it, and reverb it, so it's like kind of building up into that motif, and then it transitions. Or you can use like fucking an upsweep You know, just something in the background to kind of pull the listener up. Use those background elements, especially since it's like very minimalistic in like the structure, I guess, because you're carrying the song with the basses and shit. So adding something very simple in the background to kind of pull or push, especially towards the end of the drop. I feel like that would kind of help it.
I also think in the B section of this last drop, so the last half of it, maybe really double down on the motif. And really let it shine and be the star of the last part of the track. So I feel like it doesn't ramp up enough. Like, it's going, but maybe once we get to the B section, we need to increase the energy, and the motif would definitely do that. It's like to expand upon it, right? Rhythmically evolve it, make it even more interesting. And if you don't want it to come through more symphonically in the first bit, definitely in the second bit. Really have it come out and dance around the basses and have its certain sections to shine. Because I think that motif and just the strings you're using here are very, very good. And they will be the star of the track for sure in this part. And yeah, like I think that would be really good for this track. This is a really good one put together. I like it. I like the style, man.
Solid AS tune.
Hell yeah. And
you impressed the Luff Tiger.
He was pretty loud too. He was just about like minus 0.5, I think, at the highest point, which is, I mean, I like that. I like loud tracks.
Oh yeah.
All right, that was Detested. So next is who is this from? This was Apocalypta, right?
Let me just double check.
So let me pull up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apocalypta with Death Whip. Alright, let's get it.
Spooky.
It is spooky. It's right down my alley. Let's see. I would say right off the bat, I wish there was some sort of dissonant melody playing in the breakdown here after the first drop. It would give me more of a reason to stick around. I mean, obviously, I will. But a lot of listeners, they'll hear it's pretty much the same exact thing as what we've heard before. And you can get away with it. Like, that's fine. But I think it would benefit from having some sort of instrument being introduced here. Maybe strings. Or a sonic interest. So it doesn't need to be a melodic thing or instruments, but even more interesting pieces of ear candy. One-shotty type stuff that's delayed, bouncing around ping-ponging ear to ear. Spooky shit. And just double down on that sort of atmospheric stuff, but a really strong sonic interest in here. Track's name is Death. You could have what is it called? Like those like hospital monitors that beep. Like that would be
like the flatline?
Yeah, you could have like that flatline beeping and then have it flatline when it gets closer into the build. That would be a really cool sonic interest, because especially with the frequencies we have here are very, more washy, spacious. But there's like no sort of tonality here. So that would be really cool, is to add some sort of like I don't know what they're called, like a flatline monitor.
I know
in
what
here.
you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, with like some reverb and shit on it too, as it beeps. Maybe it gets faster and faster as we get up to the build until it drops. That would really help with the tension building back up after this heavy drop.
Are you? I was gonna say you could do like a heartbeat, and then it like flatlines like once it's about to drop.
Yes,
that
sir.
might be sick. Like it's beating quicker and quicker and quicker, and then they're dead.
Yep. Yeah, that would be a really strong theme for this track. I would definitely do that. And then I think the drop is actually mixed very well. I think the frequency spectrum is filled out nice along with the Imager stuff. I'm so scared to open up Imager. It's crashed me twice.
Probably could widen it.
Yeah, I would widen it a little bit more. Maybe widen out the snare clap layer, pan snare layer. Maybe add like a parallel process reverb to the pan snare, and just have it sort of catch the end of the body / tail of the snare with some reverb that's kind of got some width to it to fill out just the last speckle of the sides on the Imager.
Yeah.
I think the build... I like how minimal it is. Like, you can still kind of tell, like, there's tension building up here, but it's not crazy on... It's not, like, crazy on building up drums and being fast. It's more like approaching danger. Right?
Yeah.
This is kind of like how a horror movie would go, is like the build is kind of like the introduce the threat, right? Show danger. And then relieve tension.
Give the danger?
Right. Relieve tension and then jump scare. That's kind of how this is building up to me, and I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one is a track that actually benefits from not having it go mono, just because of the way it's set up. I actually like the width on it. I think that, especially with it being minimal and not, full of like 1,000 risers and a bunch of drum stuff going on, I think the build is actually really nice for this track. I think it fits very well. I think the structure is actually pretty good. I would, obviously we changed the flow up a little bit in this section compared to the first one. I would probably do a more dramatic flow shift, at least in the B drop. And I would introduce some new basses, for sure.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, I was thinking some newer basses, and maybe change the structure to be more, just a little bit more reliant on the fill sections and bring in some new fills as well. If we look at the waveform, it's like kind of lacking strong dynamics in this section. I'm sure the first drop probably is going to look a little similar in that regard, but I think the first drop is fine with how the dynamics are. I think the second drop is where we should introduce some more dynamics and more interesting sounds. That's all I have for this one, though. I think that pretty much covers it. Did you have anything else for this one?
No, that was sick. I mean, I guess, maybe during your drop, since the theme is very dark, I could tell you have some kind of grit underneath, but maybe if you can, add a little bit more grit, I guess. Just like a little bit more. Maybe, like, I don't know if you're layering, like, noise on top of your sub, and if you are, maybe just layer, like, some like, gritty sounds, something that you can find. It's very dark and, like, ominous.
Yeah, more heavy mid-rangey sound, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something more juicy in the mid-range. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Next we have Surgeon.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess it's Surgeon.
I'm gonna guess it's Surgeon or SVRGXON. Because of the V and the X, but
yeah,
it's definitely Surgeon, I think. So Surgeon Ectomy. Surgeon Ectomy. Alright, let's get this. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, there really isn't much I have to say about this one.
I was about to say, dude, that's nice.
This is definitely something that should get signed by a label.
Yeah.
I don't see a reason why anyone would turn this song down if you sent it to them. Outside of like our schedule is just packed with like 1 million releases already. Let's see. I feel like this first build here would benefit from just like one more riser layer. So I feel like maybe it's just a little too kick heavy. I mean the kick is fine, but I think it would just benefit from like one more riser being in here, just to kind of fill it out just that right bit. Other than that, track is fucking phenomenal. I think this is really well done. Structure is great, bass sounds are great, lufts are there, width is there, everything is there. Transitions out of the drop are well done. Releasing the tension is perfect here. This aim and break is great. And this whole section is nice. Introducing something new that we haven't heard yet is a very smart idea. Yeah, this track is great. I don't have anything else on it. Just keep making good music, man. That's all I gotta say.
That's the feedback. Just keep doing the shit you're doing.
Yeah, just I mean, honestly, that's the feedback some people need. All right, next is who was this guy again? What was this? This was the Google Drive one. It was Wxbble, right? With an X?
Yeah, Wxbble. Yeah.
Wxbble with an X. All right, let's get this one. I'm back. So
he's back and he's better.
I am, dude. I've been meaning to take a piss like 2 tracks ago, and I've just been sitting here like I started one of them, and I was like, fuck, well, I already started it, so now I gotta wait, and then I forgot again until now. But this was a good one to go take a piss with, you know what I'm saying? Because this one, not take a piss on, even though that's kind of what we're about to do, but in a good way, because this track needs a lot of stuff. So,
yeah.
And that's fine. This is why we do feedback. I love doing this. I like being a teacher. I think we take this section by section again. So I like how the intro comes in. I think it's very attention grabbing for sure. And then I think the lead, when it comes in full here, like obviously it's filtered back here, and it sounds good filtered back here. But when it comes in here, I think it sounds just like a tad bit goofy. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how to explain the goofiness of it, but maybe pitch it down an octave and see what it sounds like then, because it kind of sounds a little cartoonish to my liking. I mean, it sounded good filtered back here, so maybe can keep it washed out, filtered out, and introduce a new instrument here. And then have this sort of lead that's in right now as like a background. What's that?
At the beginning of your build, have just like one kick initially, a sub drop, and then as it goes in, filter the kick. You know what I'm saying? So one kick, a sub drop, yeah, for the beginning of the build. One kick, a sub drop, and then it filters in.
Yeah.
It doesn't transition as like it's not like a super smooth transition. It doesn't feel like a transition. It kind of just feels like it's just continuously like,
right.
I don't know. And then you know what I mean?
I think
right there, yeah.
If it filtered out here, it would just be better. And yeah, yeah, a stronger transitional effect here would be better too. I kind of like the groove into the build. I do kind of feel a change coming because of how it's filtered out and it comes in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it would benefit with like a sub drop and filter the kick out once it comes in. Stronger transition. And then as it goes on, I think it could benefit from having like another riser or two to layer over this, and then build energy would be fine. I think the drums for the build energy are actually decent. I like how they're going and building up energy. Then we have the biggest issue with this track, in my opinion, is the build is louder than the drop, which is usually no bueno unless you're doing it on purpose. If there's an artistic reason for this, sure, but usually for this feedback there is not, because we have a drop that's, you know, supposed to be the star, right? And you can even tell just by the waveform that it's louder than the drop, and it shouldn't be. So I would turn this drop up.
The drop is pretty. Just in general, the drop is pretty quiet for dark stuff.
Yeah, that too. It's pretty much like -7 LUFS. And the biggest thing is the sub is even like way quiet. It's surgery time. And also the sub is like an octave higher than it should be. And yeah, it's just like, it should be down a bit. I might actually, I might actually do some more cooking up on this one. So, let me just take this chunk and put it, sure, like just a new audio track right here. And then turn my drums off. Quick. What BPM is this going to be at? Probably like, say 150 would probably be where this is at. Yeah. And then let me grab EQ and perfect. Yeah, I can work with this. Actually, let's do this here. Yeah, I don't need the rest of this for now. So, this is our drop, right? And with the sub that we initially had, it should be... Actually, I'm just going to do 120 here. So that doesn't move too much. And then... let's bring the sub in here so it's even more noticeable. And this is just like simple quarter note flow. So it should, and actually let me go grab my sub rack too. Yes. And then let's do how do I want to turn this up? Let's just fucking G-clip it. I don't know. Because it's kind of hard with the drums that are in here.
Yeah.
But... that's not going to be sidechained to the kick, so I'm going to have to probably put my own kick in here now, which is fine. And then my own. So let's, actually that's fine. So let's just move this into like the rest of the processing here.
You're about to turn this shit into a 2007 Honda Civic.
I am. A fucking... what does that even mean? To turn it into a 2007 Honda Civic. It's like, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to turn it into something a little more modern, right? Because...
yeah.
What I'm about to show, right, is the sub shouldn't be at like a minus, like, 7. Which is pretty much what it was sitting at. But it should be at least like at a -1 to even a 0, like my sub.
Yeah, mine's normally like hovering right underneath the 0.
Yeah.
All the time.
And then my sub, well. that's kind of where we want the sub to be.
Yeah.
And we can check my master now for these meters then. That's kind of the octave range it should be in. Obviously make sure your sub is in the right key as well, which I'm pretty sure it was, but my sub's in D. I don't know what key this track is in. It sounds like it's in D.
Because
it's D.
Yeah,
it sounds like it fits just fine. And then yeah, I would obviously turn these bases up. So one thing I would do to turn these bases up, I mean, I have a rack. Yeah, I pretty much have his bases isolated. So I have a parallel process on reverb, right? So it's got a wet layer and a dry layer. And then I have my mid-side EQ that I usually use. It's a cut at 80 on the mono. And then this I usually move the sides as well. And then sides I'm probably going to pump up to like 2. And then this more to 6. And then I might even do a bump on the JSD. And then cleanup is just multiple EQs doing a little more. Because one EQ is just never enough. Especially for loud bass music. I don't think I'll need this extra cut on that. And then the extra G clip for the volume boost, but maybe we do back to 4. Maybe I need to tame the highs a bit. And maybe give this more. That's kind of what it should sound like in terms of volume, with this sub and the main basses here, because if we go back to what it originally sounded like, let me go back down.
Yeah. It does sound. Yeah. It does sound like his sub is. I know it's obviously higher, like an octave higher, but it does sound like it's also out of key. Because if you ever pitch something up higher, it's a very good way to tell if you're in key sometimes. Right. And it does. It sounds like it's out of key.
Yeah. Maybe.
Maybe yeah. Play it right there.
But you can see the differences with some parallel processing and a new sub. Versus... Like, obviously this is an aggressive boost because it's on, like, the whole mix. But this was more to demonstrate the sub a bit and just kind of, like, the potential that your track has, right? Obviously I'm not going to be able to EQ every issue on the whole thing, but... And I mean, shit, I can drag in, like... some rhythm drum, like a whole set, so it's not just a kick, so we can kind of get more of an idea here. I don't even know which one would work. Let's just grab like 13.
He's about to ghost produce for you.
I kind of want to just show the potential that this track
Yeah, I think the
has.
bass is pretty sick actually. I'm not even gonna lie. It makes me think of old Raid Bolt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually you're right, it does. this is where the potential of your track can be. This first bar is a nice fake out now. That sounds like a lot better here.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the potential of your track. If you boosted the volume on those main basses, which individually I would have a rack sort of like this. I don't know if you're in Ableton or not, but let's just say you are. I have a rack like this. You parallel process a reverb layer, then you parallel process a mono signal, right? So if I solo this is your mono signal. Or the whole thing solo. Obviously with me turning it up with like all my post-processing. And then this is your sides. Right? If I turn this off versus on, it's definitely fuller and wider and cleaned up a bit. Watch your highs. These basses are very high-end heavy, so like obviously what I did is I scooped the highs a bit, which is what you'll need to do when you turn these up. And then all you gotta do is just get a hold of like a sub. Obviously I've made this one myself, but like it's pretty easy to just take any 808. Like you just take an 808. I have processing like this. I cut out to like 150. I have a little bit of drive. The G clip is also giving it some drive on it, and then softness up, and then just keep the sub in mono. So like once you have this on your sub track, like we can do the same thing with this sub. It should translate well. This is in C though, so we'll have to pitch it up. But to do that, just warp it, put it on complex, and then C is where this sub is at, so we go up 2 semitones to get to D. So we go from C to C sharp to D. Now we're in D. So this sub's also chunkier than the one I was using. That's okay. It should still relatively work fine, right? Right. So you can grab any 808 and do some sort of processing like this, and it should work. And most of these subs are already going to be peaking. And having visual aspects to your mixing is important too, because if I go to my master, I can actually see what my sub is doing here. As you can see, it's peaking 0, right? Whereas this track, if we go back to your original one and we look at the meters, this is where your sub is peaking, an octave up from where it should be at about -8, which is really, really, really quiet and weak for a drop like this. So I want you to get your track to like here. Yeah, this is where it should be sitting for sure. I hope you were able to follow along with that. But if you're continuing to have problems even after watching this feedback stream, just reach out to me on Discord and I'll gladly help further than what I already have today. But I hope that really shows a lot here for you. Other than that, I think we have a lot of good sounds in here compared to the first drop. I think you did a good job on hearing that you needed variation. And I think you actually did a good job at finding the right frequencies to work with in terms of variation for this track. And I think the structure works here. I can Yeah, I think it's for the most part followable. I know I can kind of feel what's going on and feel the changes. And then like outro is fine. Did you have anything else then? Nemesis,
I was gonna
no?
say, towards the end, like, of the second drop, instead of having that melody being reintroduced, maybe take that end bit that you have, where the entire song ends, and throw that after.
So what you're saying is don't have it in here, or
no, have it end, like have it end like right there, right after the drop.
oh, like have it end here. Yeah, have it. Yeah, I see. So you're saying to have this sort of like impact here kind of drown out over time.
Yeah, because he has one that's like towards the end, and the song, if you keep going over to the right, you see it. Keep going to the right. It's all the way at the end. It's all the way at the end. Yeah. Like that. You have that towards the end of it. Have some risers there pulling up. You see what I'm saying?
Yep, that
Have
should
some
be the end,
risers
basically.
there pulling up, and then have the impact towards the end. Maybe make the impact a little bit longer.
Yeah, we can do that right now too. So this might just be better for your outro here. I'm actually glad we're touching on outros in this video as well. So let's use Valhalla and give this more of a tail like this. Something like that. Yeah. Just a little Valhalla automation on even the whole master, you could probably get away with it. Yeah. That's how you ghost produce 101. But no, I want everyone who submits to succeed, and I can tell this is a track that maybe this guy, he's just super new to producing, but yeah, everyone's been here. I was here like this once too. I was dog water when I started producing. I didn't even know what I wanted to make, and this is definitely better than the stuff I started making over a year and a half ago. So yeah, but this is kind of where we should be at, right? Louder sub, louder drop as compared to the build. So the build needs to come down. Drop will definitely come up in volume if you implement these techniques that I showed earlier. And we can just have it end here. There's no reason to carry it out unless you want to introduce a far more interesting sonic interest or a new instrument if you wanted to do that. But I think it can just end with like a big impact like this would be fine. But that's all I have for this one. If you're still struggling with it, we're here in the Malefic Discord all the time, but you can reach out to me, Dreadful, on Discord. Just message me and let me know, hey, I'm Wxbble, and you went over my track, and I could use more help on it. I'll be glad to keep helping you.
No, but if you want to go over it right now.
I don't even know what it sounds like. Is someone trolling us?
I listened to it while I was at work. Yeah, it's Ignistic.
Oh, is it? Alright.
Yeah.
Alright. I see we want to. I
This is
see
like
we
this-
want to fuck around, right?
This is like the silent film version of like fucking Rhythm.
All right, we want to do a little fafo. We're about to find out now. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It definitely needs some low end.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think your track was lacking a little low end. So let me kind of give a good example of how much low end you need. I can't resist. I got the itch. You know what I'm saying? Let me just see. Yeah, something like that. And then it was already like loud enough, and it's got. That fucking vocal in the background's killing me, dude. Yes, dude. All right, this is what your
is
track
it even
should sound
saying?
like. I don't. I think it. I don't even know.
Sounds like it's some
Full House. Welcome back to your. Well, this is the next episode of Full House right here. Actually, this is the season premiere. This is exactly what the season premiere of Full House sounded like. Yeah. There you go. This is what your track should sound like, buddy. All right. Why don't you do better next time? All right. Now, for real this time, no fucking around, man. This is serious, all right?
In the case of nuclear or radiological fallout, people living around potential targets such as military bases and chemical plants may be advised to evacuate. Fallout shelters can be any protected space with a wall and roof and dense enough to absorb the potential targets such as military bases and chemical plants may be advised to evacuate for a week, depending on the extent of the contamination. Fallout shelters can be any protected space with a wall and roof and dense enough to absorb
So the first thing that I can tell off bat, I feel like your drums are too quiet.
Yes, sir. I feel the same thing too.
And
Especially the kick. It's almost inaudible.
yeah.
Yeah, the drums are quiet. I would check and make sure you didn't accidentally turn the tracks down when you exported this. But if they're not, the drums need to come up a lot.
Sick.
Flow is nice. Basses are nice. I feel like they would benefit with a little bit more mid-range.
Yeah.
Because you can even see on the frequency spectrum. They could use some chunk in the mid-range down here in like the 400 or 500 hertz area, or pretty much just like from 80 to like 1,000. They could use some chunk somewhere in there. Sub is nice. Sub is fat. Sub is loud. Drums need to be turned up, and the basses would benefit from having the mids boosted a bit. And for a track, I think it needs to be a little louder overall. Again, I don't know if when you exported this, if you left like a -3 or 4 on your master or something like that. Because I feel like a track like this from you would be pushing -3 LUFS on the low end. So I would look at that. Yeah, the biggest thing is the drums. They're just really quiet, especially the kick. Yeah. I think that's it for me, though.
The only other thing,
Yeah.
if you go over towards 9,
Right here. Yeah. Yeah.
go back to go to like 7 and play it from there.
Fallout shelter can be any protected.
Right there, like right when it says Fallout Shelter, if you had like an impact, so it's like, whoosh, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like that would kind of like set the tone that it's gonna build up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, the basses are sick, the flow's sick,
Structures.
drums, and yeah.
Drums gotta come up, and I think the volume of the overall track, especially in the drop, should come up a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But definitely the drums. But that's all I have for that one. Actually, let me check the imager real quick. Let me just... Yeah, and I would widen out the basses a bit too. The track is a little too mono for the imager. But otherwise, yeah, good shit. There we go. Alright. And this is Eek with some drum and bass, yeah?
I'll just go and have a nice cup of tea. This tune's sick, bro. I'll just go and have a nice cup of tea.
like how dark and mysterious it is. I like
too.
the cup of tea vocal.
It's a very menacing cup of tea. Yeah, the only thing I would say is the second section here for this drop is I would like like a dark melody being introduced. Something else to follow along with other than just the basses and, like, you know, the sub and the drums and stuff like that. I think it would benefit from having some kind of instrument. Maybe a piano or strings or an 80s style synth even could be a very interesting choice. But I feel like there needs to be some sort of melody going on in here aside from what's already in here. Be a good level up. Other than that, the mix sounded great. All the elements, the dynamics are really nice, the basses are cool. Let me... Yeah, I would say the width is good for this. I don't listen to a whole lot of drum and bass, so I hope I'm giving good feedback for a drum and bass track. But
since this is heavier drum and bass, your intro and your drop about the same with loudness. Maybe bring your drop up like 1 or 2 dB.
Yeah, definitely.
To kind of like.
It's because it's already a pretty heavy drum and bass track, so yeah, you could definitely get away with bumping this up louder than I would assume your average D&B track is. Did you have anything?
Makes me
else
want to get a
there?
cup of tea.
It makes me get a cup of tea.
No, I'm just about to go get a cup of tea.
Alright, and then we have more fucking around. Look at this. We have IZOLATE, buttered sausage.
Talk about buttered sausage, where it comes from, what it does, why is it doing what it's doing, get it out of my face.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about buttered sausage.
I think we should. I think we should cook with buttered sausage. Alright guys, that'll conclude the feedback stream. Thank you so much for coming in. And I have a little treat here for you.
Talk about buttered sausage, where it comes from, what it does, why is it doing what it's doing, get it out of my face.